Welcome to ISRA League's Grand Touring Championship, brought to you by Z1 Simwheel. This is Season 6, Race 12, the Napa Valley 65. I'm Daniel Guaroni, and with me in the announcing booth are Anthony Muniz.
Great to join you guys for another race.
And Brian Carey.
Ready to get this one started.
All right, well, we're jumping here to this very, very hilly track. Let's check out the standings. We've got David Sawat, no surprise, still up on top. Mark Payne being absent from so many races. The real battle here, I guess, being for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, with Chris Dameron Jr. and John Kuzlin very close there, and Mike Kelly not too far behind. Over in GT1, Timothy Stoll, well, I think he's going to win this one. We can call that. But Marty Jeffries may be unseated for 3rd by Don Hunter if he's not careful. And let's check out GT2. We have Todd, Carver, and James Cullen. Now, I have to check the point standings. They claim that's a 4-point difference, but we're showing 10. Either way, still close enough that we can't call it either way. Then even look at 3rd, 4th, 5th. You've got Wyatt Foster and Daniel Gralty tied there, and not too far from the 3rd spot. Brian, take us around the map.
All right, well, not a lot to describe in regards to corner names here. Basically what we're looking at is a lot of ups and downs. 3 and 3A are very difficult corners. They're kind of blind, going uphill over a crest. 4, 5, 6, the carousel down the hill to the drag strip a little bit, down to 7. And then from 7A down till about 10. Very, very twisty. You're going to see a lot of the 4 GTs ahead of the LMPs, and the LMPs really struggling to get by. Corvettes also as well. Notice as you go all the way down to 11, not 11A, 11 is all the way down to the final corner, right up against the tires, 12 back onto the front straightaway there. But lots of action, lots of twisting, not a lot of space to rest.
All right, and checking out the qualifying results, we've got Chris Dameron Jr. on pole for LMP2 at 1:18.039, and not far behind him is David Sawat with 1:18.39. And Brian Carey and Carlos Pastos on the 2nd row, Mike Kelly and John Kuzlin on the 3rd, Jeremy Burris and Anthony Muniz on the 4th, Brent Briles and Jeremy Morsdorf on the 5th, Daniel Quaroni and Chuck Chambliss on the 6th, and then Tim McLeish and Don Norris on the 7th.
For GT1, Eric Palacio took the pole with a 126.4. Don Hunter was just behind with a 126.5. John Middleton, Timothy Stahl, and Julio Palacio rounded out the top 5, with Marty Jeffries, Mike Taylor, Ryan Huff, Trevor Hill, and Gilles Moret being the top 10.
And I assume that's not for me, but in the 4 GT class, we have on pole, surprisingly, when he enters the race, Wyatt Foster, 1:28.970. Todd Carver in 2nd place, coincidentally almost exactly a second behind at 1:29.998. I think Wyatt gets about a second ahead and then just shuts her down. James Cullen, Mike Young, and Daniel Gralty round up the top 5, with Matthew Voigt, Patrick Lindsay, Gary Jorgensen, Clark Reed, and Jeff Smith rounding out the top 10.
All right, now let's take a look at Chris Dameron Jr.'s pole setting lap here. Chris Dameron Jr. is heading along, crosses the start-finish line, heads around turn 1, no problem there. Into turn 2, check out how late he brakes. He's up in essentially lining himself, so he's braking a straight line. That's something only the LMPs can do at this track. Barely even lifted there for turn 3 and 3A. Sliding well into turn 4 there, and gets on the gas after he's straightened himself out and settled down the car. You can hear him feathering the throttle as he heads down the hill and into that very, very fast left-hander. Here's the hairpin. Very nicely done. He's very, very steady getting back on the gas. That's a place where it's very easy to lose rear grip and either twitch the car and lose time or spin it all together. He's flat out through the S's, so not a whole lot to talk about there. And flat out again here. All the LMPs will be flat there. And braking down from about 153 miles an hour to around 45. and gets a little bit squirrely under acceleration and heads back across the start-finish in 1 minute 18 seconds. All right. And let's see, the cars are, well, we're looking at the Corvettes now, headed through the S's, and the LMPs are going to be nearly down the end of the straight. There they are, in fact. So they're coming up to 11. I have to say, that's got to be the most terrifying turn in motor racing. We'll look at it, I'm sure, in more detail later, and you'll see why. And Chris Dameron Jr. heads off, crosses the start finish, and that is not a real yellow there. We have a green flag. There we go.
Yeah, lots of twisty up and down here, so there's a lot of places
and that
where the guys
was contact right there, actually, between Don Hunter and Eric Palacio. You could see Eric on the inside of that turn just getting pushed inwards.
Yeah, like I was just saying, because things narrow up pretty quickly here, and especially the Corvettes, a lot of weight, a lot of power, but that first corner is very prone to understeer, so it looks like Don Hunter got up into Eric Palacio there. Looks like they both got out of that all right. A little bit hardier cars in the LMPs here, as you see Chuck Chambliss coming on the inside of Daniel Girolti. Daniel Corney. That would be you, not Girolti. Daniel Corney, sorry. I know who you are.
And everyone's still very close together. You can see the Corvettes heading around now, the same hairpin there. And
also Wyatt Foster doing his best Corvette impersonation there in the Ford GT.
Everything looking pretty tidy to complete lap 1. There's Carlos Passos heading across the line. Currently lead running in 4th.
I was just looking at the back of Carlos's car there. It always looks like he's about to get sniped from somewhere. It's an interesting graphical pattern on the back of that car.
And that's Eric Palacio in the pits, and he must have sustained some heavy enough damage that he had to get it repaired.
So yeah, I'm kind of eating my words there. I said it looked like they got out of that all right. Apparently Palacio had to pit for repairs.
Yep, well, Hunter did catch him in the back rear, so that could have bent that suspension and really thrown that car off, and especially in this track. This track is fairly difficult, and that looks like LMP. Didn't quite catch who that was.
Daniel Coroni, unfortunately, into the wall very heavily.
Yep, no nose on that car, so unfortunately, I'm assuming that's going to be race-ending damage.
Yes, that was.
Any kind of commentary on what happened there, Daniel?
Well, for the third time this season, I couldn't figure out where the left-hand side of my car was and dipped the wheels just a little bit off on the left side, accelerated, and that was it.
Yeah, this is a pretty easy track to do that, especially when you're going through the middle portion of the course in the LMPs, and this dirt is, well, it definitely doesn't give you the most traction, so it's quite an easy thing to do here at Infineon.
Yeah, I noticed in the first sector of the course, turns 1 through about turn 4, they're very, very tight, and a lot of them are off camber. Like, the camber changes pretty severely from positive to negative. And what happens is, if you're kind of, get on the gas wrong, you enter a little wrong, very easy to run wide, and especially if you misjudge the edge of the course. Anywhere up to turn 4, very easy to spin the car. And believe me, Daniel's not the only one. I did it many times in practice, but hopefully the race, the rest of these guys can get through without too much of an issue. And John Kuzlin looking very racy here with Mike Kelly really pushing him pretty hard.
This is a battle for top 5. Mike trying to hold off Kuzlin for that 5th spot. And here's a battle for, I believe, 8th place. This is Muniz and Jerry Morstone. No, that is Brent Bryles, and he is fighting for that 8th position.
These LMPs flat out here through the SS section.
Get a good sensation of speed from that camera angle there as they're coming around the first part of turn 8 there. It's turn 8A is the
all right, now watch this braking here. There they went from about 150 miles an hour to like 40 miles an hour. And that's a section where you don't want your brakes to fail, because in real life you've got a wall and a couple tires.
Yeah, that's one point to point out. I always like to point out in these races for our spectators out there the differences between the iRacing, the simulated racing that we're doing here, and real life. In real life, it's all likelihood that they would not use that long turn 11 for these cars, the LMPs in particular. Basically what happens is that we have a section turn 11A which cuts off it cuts off that corner pretty early, just at the beginning of the pit entrance there. I know when the Indy cars race here, they cut off early at turn 11A for that very reason. They're coming in so fast, there's absolutely no runoff in turn 11A, and if, like Daniel says, if you lose your brakes there, I mean, that's bad news written all over it. But simulated racing, safety of the drivers in that instance, not of paramount importance, because we are safe in our chairs. Well, for the most part anyway. I mean, I have sustained injuries before. I won't get into that. It's somewhat embarrassing. Point is, you're not likely to suffer the same fate as a real-life driver if a brake failure happened at that corner. Now, one of the other cars that we do have in iRacing is the FW31 Williams car of 2009, and they have raced here in the past, and imagine these cars, the LMPs, 150 miles an hour is scary enough. Try it at 180 miles an hour and see what would happen. So we got Ryan Huff chasing down Mike Taylor here. I believe that is for the 6th position that these guys are battling over. Still a very high-speed section as you're going through those S's there for the Corvettes. The Fords in particular are lifting quite a bit. The Corvette's lifting a little bit, whereas the LMPs are flat out. But having driven a couple of these cars around here, I know the Corvettes feel the most knife edge around those corners because they're really pushing the limits of what's almost flat out, and mistakes are punished heavily for those guys.
Yeah, I think most of the circuit is pretty much on the edge for the Corvette, and probably even the Ford GTs if you want to be fast.
Now, Brent Bryles not quite able to get through, get past Anthony Muniz there, taking his run past that Ford GT.
Yeah, that section of track, all the way from turn 7A up to turn 11, really you're going to have to time your pass if you're going to hope to make a pass on someone. It's coming off of turn 10 and hope they run a little bit wide and you get a run on them, because the track snakes left and right pretty severely and pretty quickly, and you're not going to be able to stick your nose in there unless someone gets really held up, and even then it's a pretty iffy proposition.
We've got Jerry Morsdorf, Tim McLeish, and Chuck Chambliss all in a line here.
And Tim McLeish missing his sparring partner, Lance Snyder, that we saw so much of in the previous race at Sebring. Don't see Lance anywhere. He's not out of the top 12, so we can't see where he's at right now.
Excellent. On board with John Middleton. You can see how he's fighting it to get it around. He's done it quite badly, unfortunately. It cost himself a lot of time through turns 1 and 2. And that's going to give Timothy Stoll a pass there, yep.
Yeah, I know. You could see John going through that corner. That's extremely difficult in any car going up the hill through turn 1 into turn 2, because turn 2 is extremely off camber as you get past the apex, and you're really taking a weird line. And in the Corvette in particular, you are snaking it all the way up turn 1, and if you get it wrong, you catch a bump. As you can see John there, it's like a hanger in the wind. Basically, your arms are flapping around pretty severely there.
Well, breakpoint, I think, plays a big part in it, because the LMPs have enough downforce, enough cornering speed that they can essentially get themselves straight and lined up with, I guess you could call it the straight part of the uphill after turn 1 before they have to brake. But the Corvettes have to brake and turn at the same time, and that's what makes it such a huge challenge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the LMPs to some extent are braking and turning at the same time, but like you say, they have much higher downforce and are more easily able to scrub off speed through the turning and through a lighter application of the brake, whereas the Corvettes, turning and braking at the same time really isn't an option for those guys, so they really have to line it up just right. As Chuck is making a run, he might take 2 places here if he's... Nope, it looks like he's just got the inside of Tim McLeish and Jerry Morsdorf.
No, I think he's got the second spot right there.
Yeah, it's a Jerry ran wide there.
Oh no! Jerry manages to keep it going.
Liking this right now. This is some good close racing between these three guys. We have a Corvette with a slightly adjusted grill. I mean, a Ford GT that was...
Just looking for a little more downforce.
We're going to jump ahead a little bit on the track now. That's to Brent Briles. And was that Anthony Muniz almost rotating? Did he get it straightened out, though?
I think he may have clipped him a little bit in the rear to send him around. I'm not sure. It's kind of hard to tell from this camera angle, but pictures would indicate that they touched each other a little bit, and Muniz is fighting back and holding onto the position. And that's going to bring Mooresdorf, Chambliss, and McLeish right back up to them. They're only a couple seconds behind, so they're fighting around these Ford GTs, but it looks like they're coming up to them pretty quick. As you can see that corner on board with Tim McLeish there, really going through the corner. You don't know where you're headed. Like, you have to know ahead of time where that track is, and as unfortunately Will Power found out, I believe in 2008, when you have an incident up there, cars can come flying across there not knowing what's happening on the other side of that hill. That was real life. Unfortunately, Will suffered some pretty bad injuries in that incident. In iRacing, it would just mean the end of your race, which is as unfortunate as it gets here, but still something to try to avoid.
John Kuzlin, yes, not getting caught up in the traffic and able to make a huge amount of time up on Carlos Passos and Mike Kelly.
Thought he was going to have a move there at Mike Kelly, but Kelly was able to fight him back and just not give him that optimal line through turn 11.
And look at all the traffic now going through turn 11. We've got four GTs on the left and LMPs on the right. Tim McLeish is just next to Daniel Gralti here. But here's where the speed is going to cap out. But around the corner, he was able to do it on the outside. Still a very challenging maneuver. That looked like the Ford GT was really at its limit there.
Yep, I think Daniel Gralti let off the throttle a little bit going into turn 1 just to make sure that there was no contact. Smart driving on his part.
I see the LMP starting to lap Wyatt Foster, who is going at a pretty decent clip already after lap 8, 12 seconds ahead of Todd Carver in second place. So, actually, and in unnecessarily calling out a driver, brought to you by Z1 Simwheel, it looks like Wyatt isn't putting in quite the pace that we're accustomed to. He should probably be about 25 seconds ahead by now. So, this is where I claim to be disappointed in Wyatt's performance. But moving on to the battle now between Chuck Chambliss to bring up Jerry Mooresdorf again.
I suppose on lap 8 now, he's only about a second and a half, second 3/4 faster than everyone else in the field. So,
and I guess since he only qualified a second faster than Todd Carver, then he's more than ahead of that. But it's not called unnecessarily calling out another driver for no reason. So, a segment which I had just made up last week. Get a good look at Jeremy Burris there. We haven't seen him for a little while.
Yeah, he is currently running in 7th. Let's see, where did he qualify?
I think he's qualified
in 7th. Okay, so that's no position change for him.
Well, except now he's just passed John Kuzlin, and looked like that was a pretty easy pass. Considering the speed that John was running on earlier, that Jeremy drove by him. I mean, John must have been held up by slower traffic, but even so, Burris made that look easy on a very difficult track to pass on in the first place. So.
Now, speaking of difficult to pass, watch here with Mike Taylor. He's going to have to brake going around that bend, and Jeremy Burris really...
Wow.
Oh, yeah, that I wouldn't have tried. You can see how he had to check up and almost got sent off the track, and it's going to send John Kuzlin right around because he lost all of his momentum.
Wow. That was I don't think that's a place you want to see 3 wide going into turn 11.
That's one of the trouble with this track is lapping slower cars. I mean, all the tracks are difficult. I mean, for those who are just joining us and have been maybe following his broadcast before, One of the major problems is the LMP2 being the LMP2 has a smaller engine than the Corvette, and the Corvette has a lot more top speed. The LMPs corner a hell of a lot faster than the Corvettes do. However, unless you get a good run off the corner...
And that is contact.
That's Huff and Taylor double contact, and look out. Okay, good.
Oh, Taylor's... Is he off? Yeah, he doesn't look like he's good right now.
Very slow.
That's not the optimal racing line, obviously. He'd rather be on the track, so I think he's doing that on purpose to
avoid contact between Bryles and McLeish as
wow.
There was a Corvette coming back on there, and Brent went for it. Oh my goodness, this is a lot of carnage right here at the 50-minute mark.
Yeah, considering how relatively good everyone was up to this point, and even all through Sebring, for the most part anyways, it's all a relative thing obviously, but that was a pretty intense couple of seconds there.
Now, you were saying that the LMP has a whole lot less horsepower than the Corvette. That's absolutely right. The Corvette, despite looking like what you might see in ALMS, is the GT1 class car that is not run in ALMS anymore, and has a huge amount more straight line speed and power than the LMP2.
That really makes it, especially we've seen that previously in this season, it makes it a lot harder for LMPs to pass the GT1 cars, just because if you're so much faster in a corner, but if you can't get by them in the corner, then you're going to have a really tough time getting by them on a straight. It's almost impossible unless the Corvette intentionally slows up to let the LMP have the corner. So it's really presented a unique sort of challenge that you might not find in real-life racing.
Yeah, I was just watching Sebring, the 12 hours, and even though they were talking about how the LMPs, particularly the 1 class, is slower this year than it's been before, none of the LMP classes were slower than any of the GT classes in the straight line. There was, in some cases, like between LMP-C and GT2, not a whole lot of difference, but LMP is still a little bit faster. Whereas here, the Corvette just runs away without any chance.
Yeah, basically what happens is, and why that's such an issue, is you saw with Jeremy, just kind of tie it back into that incident with Jeremy going through that very corner right there, is if you don't get past coming off the corner, if you have to follow him down the straightaway, the Corvette will pull out just enough that the LMP is still close enough for most corners to get by on the inside of the game, but it's just far enough away that if the Corvette's not ready for it, it has to take the corner, then the LMP is coming in there at its usual speed to try to get by. The Corvette's going at its usual speed to make the corner, and sometimes that distance is just perfect for that LMP to come flying into the side of the Corvette. And the issue with that is, too, is like Anthony was mentioning earlier, is if you have a Corvette that you think is going to let you by, and has maybe let you by in the past, or it's very easy and very quickly to get those communications lines crossed. If you think he's going to let you by, you have to go for it, because if you don't go for it, then both of you are going to get slowed up, because he's just slowing down to let you by, you've slowed up, and then you get kind of backed up anyway. But if you go for it and he's not ready for you, then you're going to have an accident really fast, and it's a really tough line to juggle, especially for, Sebring was an hour and 45. This is 65 minutes, but I would suggest that the 65 minutes here in much tighter quarters are much more difficult to navigate there. As you saw, Jeremy tried to get along the inside there, thinking maybe the Corvette was going to let him by, but even though he may have eased up a little bit, it wasn't enough, and he ended up a little bit square peg into a round hole almost going through that corner.
Yeah, the trick with that corner with either the Corvette or the GT is to slow up a huge amount and then shoot by as they pass the apex, rather. Because they really do need to hug the apex in order to make it through at full speed.
And with that too, because basically to be able to get by, like we were saying, they need to really slingshot the corners. So do you try a good entry, but if you back off too much, maybe you don't get the slingshot, or maybe they backed off a little bit more than you thought, and it's really hard to get that slingshot off the corner, which is the easiest way to pass, because then you're past them before they even know what happens. There's really not a lot they can do to run into, even if they wanted to. However, if you mistime it, and timing is everything, driving this LMP car results can be unfortunately bad.
Meanwhile, nose to tail here with Morsdorf and Chambliss competing for the 9th spot. And we are almost 20 minutes into the race. We've got another, say, 12, 14 minutes before we see a pit stop.
Yep, because for the LMPs, what you're going to be looking for is pit stops right around the, 32 minutes is about halfway, so I think a full tank for an LMP takes them roughly to about 35 minutes, which means on our clock here, about 30 minutes will be left. So anywhere between the 35 to 30 minute range on our clock up there will be for the LMPs. And again, I apologize once more for having no idea what the fuel strategy is as far as laps go for our two slower classes here.
Well, I think it's fairly open. The GT2s, here we go. I'm on board with Mike Young. I'm in one of those GT2s. Can make it almost the entire race on a tank. They'll need just a splash. I doubt they'll take tires, but I'm not sure. This course may be very rough on tires, so they may elect to go with a lighter fuel load to start and take enough fuel that it equals out their tire change time. Corvette's at 5 or so minutes less time on fuel, so they'll be in a similar position.
Yeah, so basically for the other two slower classes, it looks like, I mean, they're wide open as far as when the pit stops could happen. They literally could happen at any time, whereas with the LMPs are in a pretty tight window of, I'd say, about 5 minutes of where they can make that pass. And that was an interesting video effect there.
I think something hit the camera.
And Chambliss is all over Mooresdorf here. You can really get a good sensation. I'm really loving this camera view here coming through the S's because you really get a good sensation of speed.
Yeah, while I was still in the race, I have to say, going through the S's, going the left, the right, the left, the right, the seat I'm in was really just moving back and forth like nuts. I can't imagine, with the actual G-forces on the seat here, they're still turning and accelerating up the hill. They don't brake until they've pretty much lined themselves up straight, and that's where the LMP gets that great advantage braking through turn 1.
Yeah, the corner that Chuck just went through there is 3A, and I'm going to, from my opinion there, I think that's probably the toughest corner on the track to get right, because if you turn in, because it's blind, you have to turn in earlier than you think. It's also down, I mean, when you come over the crest, your tires get light, which means they grip less. So you got to turn in a little earlier and harder than you think would be optimal. Likewise, you can't exactly see where the optimal apex is, so it's kind of a corner of fate, because if you go in too fast or if you turn in too soon, you're going to go run wide and risk spinning. If you back off and turn in a little later to be a little bit safer, you're going to be killing a lot of speed. So the speed difference potential there is huge. So, I mean, the other corners, not that they're easy, but at least you can kind of see what you're doing, where that one is completely blind.
Yeah, 3A also has a killer curb on the right side there, on the inside. So you have to make sure not to cut too close, or else you'll really upset the car on the top of the hill. And I doubt we'll stay on board with Chuck Chambliss long enough to go through 3A again, but hopefully we will. We're getting pretty close.
Yeah, you could just see there as they cut away that Chuck was braking right at the curbing on the left-hand side there, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, because you're going uphill, which shortens the braking distance a little bit, but it's a pretty intense braking thing as well. It looks like Chuck has gone to the inside, and he's made this one stick this time. He's been battling Mooresdorf for a while, and it looks like he's used traffic to its advantage. And Muniz is not too far up the road either. You can see him, actually he's right, Chambliss looks like he's right in his tail right now. If we could see that far ahead. Oh, there he is.
There it is.
Just underneath the graphic.
And a nice little jump you could see from back and behind, and then just up to Chuck Chambliss.
Yeah, that turn 10 also, I mean, Dan was mentioning turn 11 being a scary corner because of the lack of runoff in the braking there, but turn 10 is a high-speed right-hand kink in the LMPs. It's tough for all cars, but if you were to catch a curb or get a little twitchy or whatnot, I mean, that wall is just sitting right there, and it's a very acute angle that you'd be coming into that, so a lot of big accidents possible in that corner.
Now we're going to see Anthony Muniz come up to turn 3A, but he's behind traffic, so really tough. Although, even then, you could see he got on the throttle and got loose there. And that was not a full speed exit through the turn, so theoretically that should have been an easier job there, but that's still very challenging.
Quite a bit of traffic here. It'd be interesting to see if Chambliss can't use that to his advantage.
Oh, he looked for it. He almost... Oh, he did clip, and that's the end of Chuck Chambliss's race.
Wow. I guess I spoke a little bit too soon.
Unfortunately, yes, he did. And Chambliss stuck in the tire wall. It looks like, well, it's tough to see. It doesn't look like he's moving the rear. There we go. He tried to reverse, and I couldn't tell if he exited out, if we just cut away.
Now, watching that incident again, like, unfortunately we don't have the replay here, but it didn't look like he was, I mean, he was close to the car, but it didn't look like he had got close enough to cause an incident of that sort. So I know I'd mentioned before about the leg inherent in online racing, and I didn't see it was a green car. I didn't catch who that was that he had run into. As Jeff Smith has gone backwards off with his moderately adjusted rear wing.
That. Go on.
I think, if I'm correct, I think this is Jeff's his first race in the series. He's in the ISRA, primarily an oval driver in the NASCAR series that we have here. So he's trying his hand at the road course tin tops, but unfortunately not having much luck there. But like I was saying, because of the leg, it looked like Chuck got into a position where he was close enough to someone. Didn't look like he made heavy contact, but because of the latency issues inherent in online racing, it may have caused those cars to contact a little bit harder than looked like should have been the case. As we can see, James Cullen here, who's been separated from his sparring partner, Todd Carver, by a couple of seconds. Mike Young has got between them in third place, where Todd in second, and Wyatt Foster, I guess. Have you heard of Wyatt? Anyways, he's leading the race by 21 seconds right now, so again, phoning it in at this point, because 18, yeah, he's really backed off the pace right now, and probably talking on his cell phone actually too. I mean, that's just what I'm gathering for the pace here. So
well, I suspect the traffic is holding him up a whole lot. He's, the difference in their lap times is just not that great when they're dealing with all this traffic.
Yeah, but even so, he's managed to pull and this is Jeff Smith off the track again. Looks like he might have made contact with the tires. Looks like there's some right side damage. Yeah, I think there is. Wouldn't be surprised to see that car in the pits. I don't think that extra added downforce from that up vent wing is helping him out all that much.
Looks a little asymmetrical too, so I don't know if that's going to be good for the right-left balance of the car.
Yeah.
It was an interesting camera view. You saw Eric Palacio flying up the hill there in the Corvette. I don't know what turn that was, but I guess I was going through turn 1 and 2, judging by my track map there.
Would have been 3, I think, wouldn't it?
3 and 3.8, yeah, I think that's what that was.
Yeah, one of the great things about this track is that you get to see, because they switch around and run traffic right next to each other. You get to see people running in both directions.
As we can see, Carlos Passos going by Timothy Stahl there. Carlos currently running 4th in the LMPs.
And right ahead of him is Brian Carey.
And David Sirois is up there just ahead of him. So looks like there's Eric in between them. So see how these LMPs... This is, like I said, there's one of those tricky parts where the Corvettes are pretty quick. But
a little bit of contact against Palacio's car. Looks like it was just a scrape.
And Palacio wide through turn 10.
And knowing that Palacio had that damage earlier with Don Hunter, has probably slowed his pace up quite a bit. And I know I'd mentioned it before, and just because, for full disclosure, that was me in that car. Knowing your other drivers and kind of what to expect from them in speeds, in my mind, I mean, I don't really know the relative places offhand. You're kind of focusing on your own race, but I recognize that as Eric Palacio. So going behind them, you expect them to go at a certain speed, and not knowing that he had taken some damage, unfortunately, caused me to come up on a little quicker than I was expecting. Hopefully, I didn't damage him anymore. I know my car was probably was fairly incidental contact, so hopefully we all got that okay as we're John Kuzlin up to 5th place. And I think, like I mentioned before, we're about a minute away from potential pit stops rolling out here.
I see Mike Kelly for the LMP2 class is in the pits currently.
Yeah, actually, that's one thing I've noticed over the races here is Mike Kelly tends to pit earlier than most of the LMP classes. Now, whether he likes to start off the race lighter and then realize how long he can go on a full tank of fuel and then just pit on that lap and tank it up or not, but really noticed that it's been fairly consistent. He's one of the first LMP stoppers, whereas, say, someone like John Kuzlin is typically one of the last stoppers in the LMP.
Yeah, I think Kuzlin is one of our most fuel-efficient drivers for the LMP.
It's actually kind of amazing how the difference in fuel mileage for, as you can imagine, these cars are all identically prepared, but I mean, things like driving style, gearing, there's a number of factors that play into the actual fuel mileage you get. Unfortunately, you're not able to tune some of the things in real life that you'd be able to, or they don't have the same effect on fuel mileage that to the extent they would in real life, but I think a lot of it just comes down to driving style, and Mike, very aggressive style, John Kuzlin, a very smooth style. And you can see that too. And also someone like Chris Dameron Jr., I know from experience as well, typically pits not quite as early as Mike typically, but pretty early of the front runners. So.
Yeah, well, I know that he's complained multiple times throughout the season that he gets consistently worse mileage than pretty much the rest of the LMP field. So it's just, like you said, I really think it comes down to driving styles because you can't, it's really hard to save fuel in LMPs.
Well, it's Todd Carver's now stuck behind Mike Young there. I'm not sure exactly what happened because he was running pretty consistently in front of him and had a decent gap to him, so I don't know if Todd had an incident or not. As you can see, the LMP is now starting to come around them. That's 2nd through 4th, basically.
And they're going for another lap without taking fuel, so we're looking at 33 minutes. They must be running particularly efficiently because of all the traffic here, I think.
Yeah, there is that, but I know that you can easily go, probably here anyways, 35 minutes on a tank of gas, and these laps are pretty short too. I don't know, it was like a minute. I honestly don't remember the lap times. Was it a minute 12, something like that, for the lap time? So, I mean, you're circulating pretty quickly, so a lot more variation, I guess, as opposed to a track like Sebring, which is extremely long, kind of shortens which lap you had to come in on. Maybe like you had a choice between like 1 or 2 laps, whereas here, maybe 3 or 4 laps you can come in on.
Oh,
ooh, wow.
I think that was just mine's
that's James Cullen
getting it wrong under braking, I think. Although, is he a lap down here? No, that was really a battle for 3rd there.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, no, that's our champion battle. We're looking at it right now on board with Cullen now in 4th place, Todd Carver in 3rd place. Our main protagonists separated by, according to the screen here, and I think because our screens on the television broadcast here are based with, there are 2 drop weeks during the year, so it's the best 14 or I guess 13 out of 15 races now because we lost. Did we lose a week?
Yeah, we lost a week. We lost Lime Rock.
Yeah, so 13 out of 15 weeks. Anyways, there's 2 drop races, which I think we account for. Point is, Todd Carver ahead of James Cullen, and that's pretty much been the story from race 1 for us. So 10 points according to the screen right now, and James trying to get a little bit of that back. You can see the speed difference too. The GTs to that corner in particular, and LMP can come through there much quicker. It's a lot of downforce is the difference there, but a challenge nonetheless. No matter what car you're in, you're really going to have to turn in early, catch a blind apex, and get a good keep your momentum running through turn 3A there. And actually around this track too, I like following the 4 GTs here. I'm glad we're going to stick around with them for a while. As I say that, gone straight back to an LMP.
This is Sirwa in the pits, and I haven't noticed Dameron Jr. in the pits yet, so I think he's out for another lap.
That's right. I was just saying how I enjoyed the GT racing because the ability to this track is a shorter version of this track where it cuts off the turn 4, 5, 6 area, and that's used in the NASCAR series, and actually produces some decent racing because it's so tight. The speeds aren't super high, but a lot of slipping and sliding, and surprisingly a lot of too wide racing going around. And I think you're finding that with 4 GTs more so than the LMPs.
Yeah, well, for the NASCAR Cup Series, you can get a little bit more. You can get away with side-by-side racing just because those cars are a bit more sturdy than, say, something, especially when you compare it to the LMPs. So you can get a little bumping going on between the cars and not have any particularly large damage that would affect the speeds of the cars. So I think that's why you can get such good racing with those cars on this road track.
Many of you may have realized that was a bizarre camera view. We're actually trying to follow a pit stop of the 4GT. Just happened to be behind the building, and that's just the way it works out sometimes with our, we'll call him a cyborg director. It's all pre-programmed beforehand, so we don't have any like monkeys throwing the switches here. It's actually a pretty ingenious program that our colleague Daniel has written that does the directing for us, which, 95% of the time is fantastic. Every so often we get a shot of a building for about 10 seconds.
Well, we're just showing off all of the ambience and detail that iRacing has put into these circuits.
This particular, isn't it? Yeah, that's a better angle. It's still a very stationary car, and you can see those pit crews are not standing around. Well, they are standing around there, but stuff is virtually happening. iRacing has not got animated pit crews yet. Not really a priority for them, focusing on the simulation aspect of the service, but eventually I expect we'll see animated pit crews, and it's Don Norris. Apparently he had stopped for a drink or something on the side of the corner there, but pulling back onto the track. Talladega Night style, or real life racing style, Kimi Räikkönen, but taking a break, getting a refreshment, and then rejoining some track. This is in the Napa Valley of California, known for its racing and wine, so maybe that's actually, after this broadcast here, I might enjoy a glass of some California wine myself.
Carey into the pits from the lead.
And Passos will stay out one more lap. Probably one of the last LMP drivers to make his pit stop. Well, he will be when he actually makes a pit stop.
And we're here on board with Damron Jr. He's already made his stop, and he made that from the lead. So he'll be coming by the pits, and Brian Carey in just a moment.
Yeah, before pit stops, sorry, Brian, just finish this up real quick. Before pit stops, I think Damron had about a 20-second lead, so we'll have to see how it cycles up with traffic. It'll be interesting to see who comes out and where they come out at.
Yeah, I was just noticing here, as you can see, we don't see Chris Damron, unfortunately, that much, because he's, in this race anyway, he's pulled out so far in the lead. Our director has not cared to show him, but notice he's been sporting up to this point in the season various colors of single-color cars, which not as exciting considering all the great artwork being performed. But now he's decided to throw on, I believe, the old Datsun colors onto that car, and it's actually a pretty sharp paint job there. So took a while to get used to falling around to know which car it was, but he's joined the ranks of the fully liveried LMP cars, and it looks pretty good.
All right, so he exited the pits in third, where he currently stands. He's there behind John Cullen. Carlos Passos is in the pits.
I expect Cullen into the pits this lap, as we're now showing John Cullen, and well, this will be good. Hopefully he'll stay on with him to see how the pit entry is, and it's really a neat pit entry. It just goes on the outside of the wall in the corner there, so you can come into that pretty aggressively, and then you kind of accelerate up to the line here and make sure you're on the limiter, and find your lollipop man on the left-hand side here. I don't know if we'll be able to see it on board or not with John. So you come around the corner. It's a very long pit lane because they do accommodate the 43 cars of NASCAR, so relatively short track, but very long pit lane.
Oh, and I saw that one coming. Unfortunately, Don Hunter getting... Oh, wow. Really going off-roading after that contact from Mike Kelly. Getting lucky at that he got sent facing forward when he finished spinning.
I noticed that Tim Stahl got past him there.
Oh, and a little bit of scraping and the braking zone as the GT car ahead of them got.
And our spotters are telling me that car is now nosed into the tires, so it may have been Sean Cuthbertson.
And here we've got Todd Carver in the pits getting his service, so with 25 minutes left he is taking tires, and that was the big factor. Fuel was not the big issue. It was a question of whether or not they needed tires to make the race at full speed, and the answer from Carver is yes.
Also, though, spotted a bit of damage on the driver's right-hand side. Looks like it's lost a little bit of body work. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out and if it seriously affects his speed.
Going with Jeremy Burris here, who's running in 8th place. I know Jeremy had mentioned he had not got the testing at this track. He missed a lot of the practice, unfortunately. So Jeremy, a perennial front runner in our series, is kind of mired back in 8th place, kind of trying to find his bearings around here, but still having a pretty good run.
Yeah, news from, for him is that he's still in the race. He's had lots of early exits, so lower speed, but he's still running here with 24 minutes to go.
Yeah, the yellow must have been thrown here because there's that's Sean. That's he is deep into those tires there. I'd imagine in real life those tires would have a little bit more give, but
yeah, I don't think they anchor them down in real life.
Anyways, we are under yellow right now. I'd like to point that out. Normally our graphic would pop up and
I think we should hopefully see it once the leader gets around to the pits and the pace car picks him up.
This really brings out an interesting scenario for the leaders. We know Wyatt Foster will most likely, as we can see him in picture now, open up his massive lead that we've become so accustomed to him having. Damron for LMP2 had mustered up a fairly sizable lead, and now that the pack of cars will be bunched up again.
There we are.
Yep, as we see the yellow officially come out now, and we have the full course caution. It'll be interesting to see how this yellow plays out for the LMPs, since this is the top 2, 3, and 4th positions in LMP, so we'll see if anyone can't give a challenge to Damron Jr.
This is one of the challenges too in our race here is having the pick up the pace car correctly. The simulation will actually kind of pass this guy, go past the pace car and whatnot, but especially when pit stops, it's not perfect all the time, and it does take some time, and unfortunately it does sometimes split up the classes a little bit as it's picking up the race leader, which is your number 60 Chris Damron. We're 31 laps into it from the LMPs. If you have a Corvette stopped on the outside there, I didn't know what that was all about. I don't remember hearing anything about that, but
yeah, I believe that was Timothy Stoll. He's currently being shown in 4th place, but if he stopped on circuit, I'm sure we'll see that position change.
Yeah, that's what it looked like, but I thought he had continued on in the race, but maybe not.
Okay, he's back going again, so that's quite interesting. I'm not sure what he was doing there.
Maybe there was a pit stop or something that he was having issues with him getting shuffled down the field. Like I was mentioning, sometimes these things aren't perfect, or drivers get waved ahead unnecessarily, or they go ahead unnecessarily, and now they have to slide their way back down to get behind the driver they're supposed to be behind. So I would assume that's what's happening, but really I'm just spitballing again because I don't have any idea. Another one of the challenges too is because they don't restart by class, we're going to have LMPs and Fords and Corvettes all mixed in together. And like I mentioned before with regard to the top speed between the Corvette and the LMPs, now the Fords are a little faster than the LMPs as well in a straight line, but like debilitatingly so, especially in a restart. The LMP should be able to accelerate past them. relatively easily. But because all the different classes are mixed in together and the acceleration rates are not equivalent at all to the lap times the cars can do, those first lap and the first couple corners in particular, that first lap, are pretty hairy. So I believe we're going to be going green on the next lap for that as we're coming into turns 1 and 2. Because this track in particular, difficult by yourself, difficult when passing another car on a restart. That's it's 3 times as difficult, pretty much.
And a great opportunity for any, you can see, as I say it, the GT classes, any of the GT classes who have not pitted up until this point, it's an excellent opportunity for them because it puts them behind all of the LMPs as they exit the pits, so they don't have to worry about that traffic, plus they get the benefit of pitting under yellow.
Only issue with that is all the 4 GTs have pitted already and have caught up the snake of behind the pit car. Will automatically pretty much get past those who are pitting unless they have a really swift stop. So, strategy with these yellow flags really does have a... it's really hard to predict, as Jeremy kind of had a weird sort of braking moment, I guess. I don't know.
Apparently you can't handle these high speeds.
Yeah. You see Todd Carver racing to catch up with the back of the pack. As we can see, that looks like the tail end of... Oh, and Don Hunter really flying up to the tail end of the cars.
Yeah, Don wants to make sure that he gets right to the position he needs to, because like I say, we're going green on this lap, I believe, and it looks like some of these cars are still at the tail end of it, but our pace car doesn't matter. He's coming in, and racing will resume.
And you can see it's going to be especially difficult for Jerry Morrisdorf and Jeremy Burris, right here. They've got an enormous number of GT cars to get by.
Yep.
Looks like the green flag has flown, so...
No, not quite yet. Just some telemetry issues off the pace car, and there we go.
There we go.
We'll get the green up there once the pace car settles in. There we are.
Maybe.
I assure you it's green.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah. Unfortunately, currently getting the data, because we have to do it a different way, it's based on whether or not the pace car is moving and shown in the pits. So I guess it wasn't shown in the pits until just now.
I smell a pretty intense GT battle coming up here, because they are smack in the middle and all fighting for position. So we're following along Mike Young in the Jägermeister car. Behind him, I believe, is it's Daniel Gralty right behind him, and he's following James Cullen relatively closely. And who are we missing? No, Todd Carver's in there as well.
Well, I didn't hear you mention Wyatt Foster.
Yeah,
and he's right up there.
Yep, this is probably it's probably the first time that the other cars have seen him. Yep.
And in fact, that was almost a pass.
That's probably the only pass attempt made by the same class on Wyatt the whole season.
Now, normally I wouldn't suggest, maybe crazy pass attempts. You want to take another driver out, but if you get a sniff of Wyatt Foster, you got to take that chance. I mean, you may never see his car ever again, and I mean, it would be unfortunate to run into him, but I mean, it's risk versus reward, and the reward would be huge if you're able to make that pass. Granted, he'd probably pass you right back and just lap you to spite you, but still got to take the chance. Yeah, this yellow's brought back John Kuzlin to the back of Mike Kelly. Hopefully they can resume the battle they had earlier on the race. Only 17 minutes left, so I mean, these guys are going to have to get a move on. There's not a lot of racing left, and a lot of positions could be changing, so... Not very often you see a 4GT get past an LP there, but Don Norris wisely letting some of these championship contenders go through, as he's well down in the LMPs right now.
Now, Kelly and Cullen must have got the optimal spot where they restarted, just because they have basically a clean track in front of them. There's not really... Ooh, and Cullen's going to take a look on the inside. He's going to get off the corner. Oh, nope. Kelly got much better exit, able to keep his position from Cullen. That was a good look. That's a great place to try and make passes. So we'll see.
Good on Mike Kelly to give him the room there too. That was really nice. He was able to know and go take a little bit outside. You'll get the exit better and not risk making contact by diving through the apex there.
But for the moment, they these two drivers have a clean circuit in front of them. So this would be Cullen's opportunity to push and try and see if he can get by Kelly before they catch up with traffic.
Or even when they catch up with traffic, it depends how and where that happens.
That's true. Yep, we're just down to about 15 minutes left.
Hope we got a car coming on the left here.
Oh, I think there was a bit of contact.
There was contact, but Cullen's still there.
Just a little rubbing, guys. That's all good in these cars. The 4 GTs can handle that sort of thing.
And Cullen's still looking to the outside.
On the inside, both of them gets by. Wow. What a great move by Carver to take advantage of their battle. Looks like Cullen's going to be able to get by on the inside here. Yes, and he will. But still, that was a great move. Yeah, that was a great move by Carver to get by on the inside as the other two were concentrating on holding each other off. That was a great move.
Looks like they spread it a little bit there as one of the SRN Corvettes was running slowly there. I didn't know if that was Marty Jeffries or Ryan Huff, but just got a brief flash of the paint scheme. But these guys are really, like I was saying before, 4 GT battle at this track was shaping up to be a good one, and that was I mean, those couple of corners were fantastic. Everyone getting out of that cleanly. And oh, there we go. Looks.
Oh man! Wow, that was Cullen just barely missing the. Oh no! It's
taps him on the inside,
but rights him back so that he's facing the right way and can continue, and he does not get the spot.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, Mike Young will pass them both back. So Mike Young back up to second. Looks like Cullen could fall under the clutches of Daniel Gralti in the 5th place. I see him lurking just back there.
That's the thing. We don't talk a lot about Daniel Gralti because he's always finding himself behind, like in the 4th or 5th position behind Todd, James, and Wyatt, and in this case Mike too. But looks like he's ready to stick his nose in there. He's always got the pace, and he's always right there. So starting to give a little action and get his face on camera a little bit.
Yeah, he's had a fairly uneventful race so far today, so I'd like to see him get up into the battle for the top, or 2nd to 5th. Wyatt has since pulled out a 6-second margin, well now 5-second margin over Mike Young in 2nd.
And that Corvette that I mentioned earlier, that's Ryan Huff. Literally does not know what to do with himself. He's probably struggling with some car handling issues right now if he's mired between these guys, but he does not know what to do. Does he go forward? Does he go backwards? He's going forward, I guess, a little bit. Yeah, hopefully he's got the speed to pull ahead now, because now we're back to the 3-car battle here.
And that Corvette really helped Carver, or Cullen rather, to get alongside Carver going out of turn 11. I don't think. Now he's not going to have it going into turn 2.
It's a very, very, very tight line through 2. That was not the optimal line there. Oh wow!
Look at his hands on the wheel.
Yeah. Although we've seen that from him before, I believe first time was at Spa where we saw, in fact it was a Gralti versus Cullen battle where Gralti being very smooth on the wheel and
yes.
Cullen really sawing at it.
Dan Gralti, and you can see the hands there not moving nearly as frantically as Cullen's were.
But with only just over 11 minutes left, I think Cullen is really trying to push that car as hard as he can. Although may serve him just as well to try and be smooth. It looks like Gralty's been quite smooth so far this race, and he's been able to catch up and stick with these guys, so we'll see if his smooth driving style is able to get him by Cullen.
Just notice in the background there, Chris Dameron Jr., the leader of the LPs, is catching these guys relative. There he goes, right along the inside here, but the battle's pretty intense, and that may cost him some time with Carey only about 4 seconds back starting the lap.
And there's still 10 minutes left so far, so that's plenty, with only a 3.5 second margin or so. That's really, if Dameron catches traffic at the wrong time, that's really not much space between himself and Carey, so that could turn into a battle in these final stages of this race as well.
Well, looks like Jeremy Burst wants a piece of this action. He's now in 7th place, right on the tail of these 3 guys. Like I mentioned earlier, he hadn't had a lot of practice, but it looks like he's found his Infineon legs and is really hustling that car. I don't know what Infineon legs look like, but I would like to avoid that mental image of Jeremy as much as possible. See if Cullen can make it stick now, because as you're just watching this battle here, he's had a few good attempts coming up. Now he's got a Ford GT to get by, so maybe he can use that to his advantage. But Mike Kelly is a pretty wily customer, and you won't catch him napping too much going through traffic. So Mike comes from he's one of the, he's got more of an oval background as well, running our NASCAR series. And so he has experience in all types of cars, and he's quick in all types of cars, so kind of calling on that that experience right now as he's trying to hold off Cullen and Burris.
I also think I spotted a little bit of damage on driver's hand left on Kelly's car. See, and Burris thought about making an attempt there. Definitely wasn't any room for him, so good of him to back out. Back to Kelly. Looked like he had a bit of damage on his left hand front. That could be affecting his top speed, but if it is, then Kelly's pace must be very fast when you compare to Cullen or Burris, if he's able to stay in front even with that damage.
Yeah, we noticed that incident earlier with Don Hunter coming through the turn 88A complex there, where Don did his pretty hefty spin coming through several corners actually. He's able to keep it going, but that's probably where that came from. Regardless of the car situation right now, this is very entertaining to watch because Cullen is really hustling that car. John has a really very tight driving style. At the same time, knowing when to attack, and this is one of those times where he's really trying to put Mike under pressure.
Just want to point out the gap between first place Chris Dameron Jr. and second place Brian Carey is hovering around the 2 to 2.5 second mark. So Carey's taken a second off Dameron so far, and he's got 7 minutes and some change to try and make up that last little bit of time.
Well, there's Wyatt Foster, who has pulled out a modest 10-second lead from Mike Young and Todd Carver. Todd Carver 3 seconds behind Mike, and James Cullen further second behind, with Daniel Gralty 3 seconds behind that. So an intense battle earlier has spread out a little bit as the LMPs have come by. Still plenty of time left for them to do something about that, as we're back with John Cullen really putting the spurs to Mike Kelly here, trying to make an outside pass and see if he can do an undercut coming off the corner here. He's going to try to swing wide, and nope, he got too much understeer there and wasn't able to do a late apex and come under Mike. So status quo for the moment.
And Kuzin has to get by. Okay, and he does good. It looks like the Corvette let up a little bit to allow Kuzin to get by. That was going to be, if he got held up behind that Corvette, that probably would have been the end of the Kelly and Kuzin battle, unless we had a mistake from Kelly, just because that would have cost him quite a bit of time following him through 3 and 3A.
There's our championship battle. Right now on the track, it's a battle for 3rd place. It's a battle for 1st in the championship with Todd Carver leading James Cullen. Hopefully trying to extend that slim points lead by not letting him by, because there could be a huge swing of points. Any position change between those two drivers is going to be a huge swing in the championship, so very important each time. As there we go, another attempt by Kuzlin going around into turn 10, and yes, very wisely not doing that. Yeah, the way this is going, I'd be very happy to stick with this right to the end of the race, because this is quite the battle here. As you can see, two very competent LMP drivers slicing their way through traffic and trying to take that, what is 5th place. Mike Kelly currently holding, John Kuzland obviously in 6th place.
We can see that they're coming up on sparse GT traffic, and it's kind of a good thing for Kuzin, because he can possibly use those, because there's not a lot of GT traffic, he could possibly try and use one of those cars as a pick to help him get around Mike Kelly.
Eric Palacio really giving John Kuzlin the opportunity there, getting on the brakes early. He could have made that impossible.
Yeah, Eric Palacio is really not in the battle with anyone right now. He's 2 laps on either side of any of his competitors, sitting in 6th place. So with 4 minutes left, there's literally nothing he can do about that position, so no point in forcing the issue with any of the faster cars here.
Kelly again defending on the inside going into turn 11.
Really doing a job of hugging apex there.
Yep, not giving Kuzlin any room to get around. He's going to have a couple more laps to try and see if he can't work around.
Yeah, basically it looks like John's really going to have to force him into a mistake. Going to that hairpin, Mike Kelly not biting at all. He's really taking the inside line, shutting that pass opportunity off, and then holding the apex and forcing John to go to the outside. And as he's sticking to the apex there, it's a very long apex. As you can see, it's very, as you're going around those tires there, you're holding onto the apex for a very long period of time, which means that the undercut by Kuzlin is a very, very difficult proposition. So he's going to see there's another opportunity going into a turn 7 here, so let's see how that works its way out. Kuzlin does not look like he's close enough, though, to make a reasonable attempt.
Although we've seen Kuzlin get up and side-by-side Kelly into turn 11 a couple times, and I think that could be because we talked about Kelly having a bit of damage on that front right corner, or left corner, and I think Kuzin may be a bit faster through this S's portion of the track, and that's allowing him to get by, but with Kelly holding the inside, that's, there's no room for him to get by.
Yeah, it's these two corners here, turns 9, 10, going into 11. It's pretty much the replay of the last 3 laps.
Wow, that was really late braking right there.
Kuzin able to hold it, but yeah, with Kelly holding that inside line, there's just no room for Kuzin to get by.
Now, as I mentioned, for this track, the long track goes all the way down to turn 11. Turn 11A will cut that corner a lot shorter. You don't go all the way down to where the pit entrance is. And had that been the case, the turn 11A is a much more acute corner. It's a sharper corner. And the undercut's a little easier because it's, well, it's kind of hard to explain without the drawing there, I guess, but because you're taking the corner, you're coming in sharper, your exit lines are more variable, whereas 11 really lets the car settle into the corner. So unless Kuzlin can really make it fly around the outside there, I don't think he's going to be able to do much, as Mike Kelly gets chopped up bad by the Corvette here. And
so does John Kuzlin, almost making contact with just
look at Jeremy Burris. He's decided he wants a piece of this too, and it looks like
wow, that was not the best move we've seen Burris make. I don't think he was ready for that Corvette to brake there and just rear-ended him.
Yeah, I mean, it's an unfortunate move by Burris, but as far as that was Marty Jeffries in the number 47, luckily for Marty, and I guess luckily for Jeremy too, that's not going to cost Marty any positions because Marty has 2 laps on either side of his next closest competitor, so he's finishing 7th one way or the other. So unfortunate. I mean, he really had nowhere to go. I mean, he's not trying to hold the guys up, but it's just, I mean, you got 3 wide there. He's got to go somewhere. You can't make the car disappear. And Burris unfortunately tried to go underneath him, and it was not a good place to pass. Normally you go left or right of a car, not over top or underneath. Unless you're Martin Brundle at Australia in 1996, you might try to pass Johnny Herbert going over top of him, but that's not recommended. And that was Dameron Jr. going around slower traffic. I think we've got one more lap after this, and it looks like Dameron Jr. has pulled out. A 3-second lead. It had been down to 1 second a few laps ago, but I think traffic has pretty much settled that issue for us, and this is the main battle on the track right now for 5th place in the LMPs. And you can see Kelly pulling away a little bit here. Let's see if we can stay on board with Kuzlin to see where he's making up the time. And
he won't.
Because the battle between Carver and Cullen is heating up as they're side by side, heading up to turn 1. Carver rather gets ahead.
And that'd have been great if that had been the last lap, because I mean that was a photo finish right there. Those noses are pretty much identical.
Unfortunately, on last lap now as we speak.
Oh, Kuzlin is, nope, he's slowing. He's that's Burris coming up on him. I don't know what happened to Kuzlin there, but Kelly is nowhere to be seen.
Oh, and that was...
Well, there's damage on the front left of Kuzlin's car now. And I'm going to assume that was an incident between himself and Mike Kelly.
And Burris had a good run out of there. He's had to back off. Let's see if the damage is severe enough for Burris to get back on him, because Burris's car must not be at 100%, having gone underneath of a Corvette there. But no, he's climbing right back onto Kuzlin, so plenty of lap left to make this stick. We're only coming around the carousel, turn number 6. Fast and Furious now as we're back to Cullen and Carver for the Ford GT battle in the final lap.
Oh, look at Cullen. Yes, Cullen getting it a little bit sideways through the S's. And there's Dameron for the win. And Brian Carey crossing the line second. And David Sirwa third. We've got Carlos Passos fourth, and in GT2, Wyatt Foster. I'm sorry, we got...
Wow.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was...
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Contact after the race.
Oh, that was Mike Young taking the victory in GT2. According to our screens here, this is what I can't figure out. Where's 53?
Yeah, 53 should be ahead of Young, and it's possible that he's not a lap ahead, so I'm not sure what's going on there with the scoring board, but 53, Wyatt Foster does win the GT2 race.
Don Hunter there coming across, or will be coming across. He's 15 seconds ahead. He'll take the Corvette win, probably no problem there.
Yep. What a finish between the two GT2 drivers, Todd Carver and James Cullen. That was so close. James had been fighting for most of the race. And this is Wyatt Foster right here. He's out of gas, but he has finished the race in the first position. Looks like he's trying to get a push from Jeremy Burris in the LMP.
All right, well, where does that leave us? Well, Mark Payne, unfortunately absent from this race, just holding on to third from Chris Dameron Jr., who gained a bunch of points, finishing first. And Brian Carey with a precarious hold on second now. In GT1, we still have Timothy Stoll up there leading. And let's see, did Don Hunter start fourth? I thought he did, and I believe
I think he did.
Clawed up to third. And second is in his reach now with 3 more races to go. And meanwhile, Todd Carver opens the gap a little bit to James Cullen, and again, we'll have to check those points. It may only be 6 points rather than 12, but obviously still anyone's win there. We'll have to see how it shakes out. All right, guys, race wrap-up time.
Well, it was a highly entertaining race. I mean, they basically put a lot of cars onto the same track. Well, actually, we'll go over the last few races here. Brands Hatch coming up next week. Watkins Glen, the Cup circuit this time, not the full boot circuit. And then finishing off with our 2-hour, I guess, the petite Le Mans at Road Atlanta there, which is, I'm really looking forward to that. That should be a fantastic track, fantastic race coming up there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see if we get the donuts I'm expecting here. Mr. Stoll, see if we can take a look. Is he going to do it?
Oh, there he goes. Come on. There we go.
There he goes.
Come on, spin it around. There we go. Okay, now he's got it planted. Okay, that's a donut. That didn't start off well, but yeah, you know what? Here's the thing with these cars is, out of all these cars, the Corvette by far has the most power, and so far we have not seen very positive donuts from these Corvettes. Don't want to, kick a guy after he's won a race, but I mean, come on, if you're going to win a race, I mean, at least spin the car around a couple times in a tight circle, not just... Anyways, but all in all, about this race here, I mean, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, it's a very tight track, put a lot of cars onto a tight track. It's wide enough that you can get some 2, and we can see from the Ford GT it's 3-wide racing, and for the most part getting around clean, but good performance by everyone here, very entertaining. And Anthony, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think we saw, this is probably one of the most entertaining races we've had so far. I mean, we had some great action in the GT's GT2 class. It was almost like watching the NASCAR stock cars go around, little bumping and banging with each other, and really got to call out the 2 drivers of James Cullen and Todd Carver. Yep. Those guys really put on a great show for us, and a lot of good battles in the LMP class too as well. So great race to watch. And yeah, look forward to the next one.
Yeah, non-stop action brought to you by Z1 Simwheel and ISRA League. As always, check out z1simwheel.com, and if you'd like to race with us, israleague.com. I'm Daniel Quaramani with Anthony Muniz and Brian Carey, wishing you a good night.